Hello everybody and welcome back to Satisfactory. I'm Drawing Chaos and today we're going to talk about power. Now I've finally finished completing every single power type in 1.0 and above, so I thought it'd be time to talk about what I think about power, whether you're starting off small or you're going grand, and letting you know what the best power types are, which ones are the easiest, and what to do at what point in the game. Also my idea for what the optimal amount of power is. So if you're excited for this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But without further ado or wasting time, let's get on with it. Now, of course we can't start talking about power without getting the one thing out of the way. Of course, the biomass burner. The one thing that you'll be starting with first thing. And of course, this little puppy right here is kind of a staple for getting power plants up and running. But I did want to show something very simple for newer players if they haven't seen this already. Now, the quick rundown on this is, if you take leaves and wood in the beginning game and put them through a constructor, you can actually process them to make biomass. If you take that biomass and put it back into a constructor, you can then process it further to make solid biofuel. And with just one constructor producing solid biofuel at 60 per minute, you can power 15 biomass burners for a whopping 450 megawatts of power. At the beginning game, that doesn't seem like a lot, but actually, it's enough to power a small factory pretty easily. And the best part about it is it only consumes about 12 megawatts of power at the most, so you get a huge return on this. The nice thing about this is it's simple, cheap, easy to make, and great for early game. Next up is the glory of coal power. This is the first one that you'll be able to automate, get up and running, and one of the first ones that it can actually look pretty fun and pretty snazzy as a main power source. Not to mention, it blows the other one way out of the water in terms of look, in terms of style, and it's not too difficult if you know what you're doing. Now, when you're just starting out and automating, you'll be able to have access to Mark II miners. This will give you a pure node to be able to have 240 pieces per minute. Now that's great for this coal because that means we'll be able to make 16 of these coal generators. Each coal generator produces a whopping 75 megawatts of power. So of course, 75 times 16 will give you 1,200 megawatts of power for every pure node of coal that you have. And that's assuming that you actually don't up it by using power shards. The nice part about that as well is the ratio for coal to water is pretty simple. Each one of these is producing 120. I have 1, 2, 3 for every 8. Now, some of you may be thinking, that's 360 cubic meters of water per minute. The only pipe I have is a 300 line. It caps out at 300. This is very, very important, and I can't believe I have to say it so many times. So for example, if this is producing 120, this is producing 120, and this is producing 120, when they combine together, this pipe will only have 300 in it. That makes perfect sense. This cannot move more than 300 cubic meters of water from A to B. So when this combines together with it, it'll still only be 300 cubic meters of water from A to B. The way the system is set up is this is making 120. It goes through here at 120 per minute. It splits off. Half of it goes to this one. The other half goes to the other one. Half of that goes to there. Then the last quarter goes there, and so on and so forth. But each one of these coal generators is taking 45 cubic meters per minute. So as long as 45 goes into there, another 45 goes in there, and only a little bit left. Wait a minute. 45 plus 45 is 90. This is only producing 120, which means I don't have enough for this one. That's where this guy comes into play. By splitting off into here, 60 goes here, 60 goes here, but that leaves us with an extra 15. That 15 goes to this one, and it's the last little bit I need. This does the same thing on this side. So as long as I have water extractors in different locations from the pipe that segment that it has, it's not being, there's basically no part in this whole line that has 300 in it. I'm sorry to go on such a tangent about that, but you would be surprised at how many people don't understand that it's 300 in like A to B, B to C kind of thing on the connection points, and not that this whole section can't fit like 300 on it. I mean, you would be surprised. Now, of course, that's only coal. And the best part about coal is it comes in like, you know, little groupings. So you never just have one random coal node, you have multiple. And of course, what that means is you can get multiple lines together. And what happens when you get multiple lines together and it's just easy automation from there? Well, that's when you can go a little bit bigger with things. Now, sure, it may not always be the prettiest thing in the world, but it's so easy to get this stuff up and running once you know what you're doing, and to upscale it very simply and very easily. This can get you a lot of power early game, especially when you try to upstart some of those bigger and bigger and bigger builds that you plan on doing, because if you're like me, you want to go crazy with it. Now, let me ask you something. Do you want free power? Do you want to just put a machine down and it takes care of everything for you? Well, say hello to Geothermal Generator. This thing, you just find one of the geothermal nodes or whatever they're called, you plop this machine down and bam! Free power for days. Nothing else needed to be done. It looks fantastic. Beautiful animation. Sad we can't use the machine on anything else because decoration on this would have been off the charts, but I gotta say, it's gorgeous. So, what kind of problems are we looking at geothermal? Well, first of all, look at that. Yep, you're gonna need some fancy stuff just to make this. Now, early game, not so much. Right around mid-tier is probably your best bet to start automating this stuff, even in small amounts, just to actually get this. Or if you really want to, your biggest thing is going to be the circuit boards or whatever they're called. Hold on. That's right. High-speed connectors. These puppies are going to be a pain in the butt to make, but you can always buy them out of the Awesome Shop and make as many of these things as you'd like. Because, you know, coupons are kind of easy in the beginning. But here's going to be your biggest issue. Fluctuating power. Yep, that's right. These things go from a low to a high, depending on the type of node they are. So if I search, which I got this one right here, boom, all I got to do is look on the map and bam, this is a normal node right here. Now granted, there's a lot of nodes around the world that you can go grab, but it's nothing compared to actually making your own power. Sure, it's free, but you know. Next up is the glory that is oil, because you're gonna need this to power the best option in the game, and that is the wonderful, beautiful fuel generator. Now there's a debate, okay, which is better, fuel generator, or there's one other one, nuclear power. But I gotta say, this one has the best recipes attached to it. Hands down, bar none. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain what's going on over here. See, this lovely fuel generator, if you hover over these, you can actually see the options of what can go in there. You have liquid file fuel, you have fuel, and you have turbo fuel. But there's two others in there that are completely locked in this part of the game that I'm in. When it comes to mid-tier, your best bet is going to be regular old fuel. So you're going to start this lovely process by taking your oil and putting it into a refinery. This can make you stuff like heavy oil residue. Now granted, you can also make plastic, rubber, and a bunch of other stuff for that, but it's the heavy oil residue that we're going to need, because once you have that heavy oil residue, you can take it and you can put that into other refineries and you can make yourself some fuel. In this case, I have an alternate recipe that makes just an abundant amount of fuel. So the first alternate recipe takes crude oil and makes it into heavy oil residue, which increases the amount from 30 to 40. Nice. Then I have second refinery, which takes heavy oil residue and packaged water to make packaged fuel. Then I go one step further and taking this lovely packaged fuel, unpackaging it, putting it in a pipe, and sending it off to a fuel generator, only for me to have these empty containers refill up with water and do the process all over again. Easy peasy, bam, done, no problem. Now, here's the thing. It's an easy process, but it gets out of hand quickly. But I will tell you one thing. You can go insane with this. In this one biome alone, I have over 4,000 cubic meters of oil, producing me 144,000 megawatts of power in one relatively concise base. It's a bit massive, but it looks amazing. But thus far, I have only been talking about the easy stuff. The only thing to get you to mid-tier, the way of setting up your playthrough so it's just nice so you can go big and massive. Now granted, you don't need these types, but these fuel types, these next one, are gonna blow everything else out of the water. And granted, you don't have to go to this massive scale with it, but I'll tell you one thing, it is definitely worth it to see big number be bigger number. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, say hello to a nuclear power plant. What an annoying piece of junk. Just kidding. But the great thing about this is it produces 2,500 megawatts of power with one machine. Now granted, it needs 240 cubic meters of water per minute to run, as well as a uranium fuel rod, a plutonium fuel rod, or a fixonium fuel rod. And we'll get into those in just a minute, but each one of these, not so bad. The best part about this is you don't have to build as many of these big machines just to get it up and running. The problem comes from all the things that go into it. Yeah. So first off, to get this started, you need a uranium fuel rod, which has alternate recipes and is a huge pain in the butt. Now, even fully overclocked, you can produce 1 per minute in one of these lovely machines. But 1 per minute, what does that even mean? How many per minute do I even need? Well, according to this lovely stat that it gives us over here, it burns 0.2 per minute. Well, if I have this fully overclocked, it's going to burn 0.5 per minute, which also gives me 6,250 megawatts of power. So as you can see right there, you actually get an idea of what you're allowed in. But if I overclock this as well, I need 600 cubic meters of water per minute. So I could even build less of these power plants if I truly wanted to. But this right here, this is our biggest problem. This produces uranium waste. And unfortunately, you can't throw it away and you can't throw it in an awesome sink. You have to process it further. Now, lucky for us, it can be processed down further, but unlucky for us, it produces it in some big, heavy machinery. So you're going to need a lot of space taken up and a lot more materials just to process it down into something as simple as encased plutonium pellets. Which those encased plutonium pellets you can't get rid of either. You have to process those down even further. That you have to make a plutonium fuel rod, which as you can see also takes a bunch of spicy items. Now here's the tricky thing. You could take these plutonium fuel rods and throw them into an awesome sink and it'd get a bunch of coupon points. Or you can be pretty ballsy and throw them into some very own nuclear power plants or even more power. Of course, if you do that, you now get plutonium waste, another item which you cannot get rid of unless you process it down further. And if you thought processing uranium waste was a pain in the butt, oh boy, are you in for a surprise. Surprise! You're gonna need nuclear pasta just to process this down further. Yep, that makes you a singularity cell, which looks fancy and kind of like a mini nuke from Fallout. But with the power of that, as well as some wonderful dark matter residue, which some people haven't even heard of, you can take the plutonium waste and make an IKEA lamp, or fixonium. Now, if you thought that was it and we're all done, boy, are you in for another surprise. Because now comes the real fun, where you get to throw it in this, like, Mako reactor type of machine. I think it's called, like, an encoder, but who cares? Of course, you have to add in a couple more items, because it wouldn't be satisfactory if you didn't get to add in even more items. And with all the power combined, you will make a fixonium fuel rod. And the nice thing about the fixonium fuel rod is, it can go into a nuclear power plant with some water and produce no waste. And that right there is the biggest troll slash meme of this entire game. Imagine, if you will, taking all the wonderful uranium in the world, processing it, putting it into those wonderful, wonderful power plants, only to process that into plutonium and putting them in the other ones, only to process those into fixonium and put into those. What a huge pain in the butt. But I will tell you one thing. The upside to it, the amount of power that it makes, is freaking insane. You can go nuts with it and truly, truly have a blast. Now here's the thing. This might look like the same fuel plant as before, but it's definitely an upgrade, because this is my end game build for what I like to call the best power in the game. And yep, it is that condensed. This right here is producing the same 144,000 megawatts of power. Actually, to be honest, it's producing more. But it's using a lot less resources, but we are making rocket fuel. So, boys and girls, why is this so much better than nuclear, so much better than fuel, so much better than coal? Why is this the most and best power source of the entire game? Well, because it's very simple, comparative, and it produces so much, and with overclocking and power shards, you can have the most condensed power plant in one location. Like, this is smaller than some people's bases. All right. So how does one produce rocket fuel? Well, there are two different options. We can have one, which is this one right here, as well as an alternate, which I don't know if it's that great, but I love this one because all it takes is turbo fuel, which we have plenty of different options for, as well as nitric acid, which we have one option for. So this is our biggest problem right here, is the nitric acid, because of course, nitric acid takes nitrogen gas. But there's something fun about nitrogen gas. See, this little guy right here is a converter. It converts things into other things. And one of the things it can convert is deuterium or bauxite into nitrogen gas, which is kind of awesome, because basically I can take 120 deuterium and make 120 nitrogen gas, or I can take 100 bauxite and make 120 nitrogen gas. And let's face it, not everybody on this wonderful, wonderful game actually likes to play with bauxite or deuterium, or at least uses the whole thing. But it gets one step better. I can transfer my copper into bauxite and then bauxite into nitrogen gas. Where can I get some copper from? I don't know. Everywhere? Now, granted, you need SAM for this to actually happen, but, you know, not everybody's going to be using all of that either. So this right here is a little overpowered, no pun intended, for making rocket fuel, but we can actually check just how great this is in a wonderful fuel power generator. So if I look at this now, we have stuff like rocket fuel that burns at 4.167 compared to regular fuel that burns at 20. So if I could produce way more rocket fuel than I ever did for fuel, that's a huge difference. Now, sure, there's something called ionized fuel, but with getting into real late game, this is not worth it. And comparative so, we can take turbo fuel and produce more rocket fuel than the turbo fuel we had, and, you know, basically use it as half the rate almost. I mean, the best way I can describe it is I have 2 pure lines of oil coming in here. I have 1,000 nitrogen gas, as well as 750 sulfur, and just a sprinkle of iron. And all of that makes me 150,000 megawatts of power. I mean, if that's not enough said, I don't know what is. Oh, and to add insult to injury, this whole build took me 8 hours to make. That wonderful nuclear build that I made, kind of about 4 months. So, which would you rather spend? 4 months or maybe a day and a half? I don't know. And besides, I did this in a day and a half and it's designed like crazy. How fast do you think you could put it together just, you know, with a regular recipe? But of course, we can't end a video about power without talking about the alien power augmenter. One of the best items, buildings, whatever you want to call it, in the game to make massive amount of power. All right, let me explain. So this puppy here is built with one specific resource that is limited beyond control, and that is our wonderful summer sloop. We only get about 100 and some of those, you know, and change. And once you have this baby unlocked, you can build them wherever you want. And the best part about them is they build nice and easy. You hook up a power line to it, voila, and bam! 550 megawatts of power. Now this produces 500 megawatts of power and gives you an extra 50 megawatts for free. I mean, technically it's all free, but that's beside the point. This boost that comes in here is 10% of this wonderful main power. So this gives us 500 power and an extra 10% for free. The nice part about it is we can build other ones, like maybe even a second one, and combine this together, and voila, we are now at 1,200. That's weird. We should be at 1,100, right? Nope, because now it is making 1,000 megawatts of power and boosting at 20%. 10% for this one, 10% for that one. And because the 1,000 gets us 100 here, an extra 100 here, because now they're both combined. Oh, that's amazing. But check this out. Let's say I grabbed a power line from somewhere. Let's say I built something crazy and massive. This is 953,000 megawatts. Yep. This right here is 1,200. But when I combine these together, voila, that is a huge jump. I am now at, oh my god, 1 terawatt. So this went from boosting 272,000 to 409. That is almost half That is almost half a terawatt of power extra. Now here's the best part. You can actually put a alien power matrix in here, and at 5 per minute, you can turn this 10% into 20%. Now, the only problem is these things are a waste of resources if I ever seen one. First of all, you have to make power shards. Second of all, you have to make the SAM fluctuator things. And third of all, you need a superposition oscillator. So even if you were to make one of these, even if you were to make 5 of these per minute, that means for every one, you need 15 of these. And to get one of those, you need one of those crystal oscillator things, some frickin' aluminum and whatnot, so it gets out of hand real quickly. Well, that's going to be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found the video very informative. I hope you're ready to make yourself a beautiful power plant and showcase it, because I love seeing what everybody else does. Let me know in the comment section what your favorite power is that you use. Whether it be fuel, coal, who knows, maybe you like the meme of nuclear. I don't even know. I can't even say the word right. But I do appreciate everybody that made it this far. You guys are wonderful, and I'd love to see you in the next video. Hell, I'll appreciate if you're in this video. Anyway, have a wonderful day. I appreciate everything. Bye-bye.